Okay, hi guys. I'm going to go over a quick type demo for those of you who may have missed it in class or want another refresher. So when you're working with type, there's two things to keep in mind. Number one, you always want to have at least one bold or decorative font, and then you have one supporting font that will be its contrast and its support. So if I have a big bold font, or if I have a brushy script as my decorative font, my supporting font is usually going to be a sans serif or a serif. So it's going to be something simple and calm. So we can pair a serif or a sans serif. This one is a sans serif. And then we can pair it with a script, something like that. Or we can pair a script with a sans serif, like this. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to put a sans serif with a script. Actually, that one doesn't look too bad, but we try to use what's called a supporting font. So if you're going to have this really decorative kind of sans serif, it's a hairline serif, we would probably put this sans serif with it because that looks a lot nicer. So you really want to let that decorative font shine by being the element that really captures the visual. And then everything else would be a supporting font. So that's step one. Step two, things to know about type is whenever you're working with type, you'll see the blue line underneath it. That means that the type is active and that you can go in and edit it. So if I use my type tool, I can come in here and I can change letters. I can add more text or take away. If I highlight it, I can go in there and make any edits I want. And if I click on it, it should tell me at the top here where it says character. Come on. Yeah, my Illustrator's a little slow. There it is. If I click on character, it should tell me the typeface that this is in. So you can see this is lemon milk. If I click on any of these, right, it's going to tell me what font that is. So when you see the blue line underneath, that means the type is active and it's editable. Now, sometimes when you're working with type, you want to turn it to outlines. And what that means is you want to turn it from editable type and turn it into a vector object, which is like something you would draw with the pen tool. So there's some pros and cons to that. And I'll show you one of the cons is that you can never go back and find out what font that is. And you can never go back and edit the text. So what I like to do is make a copy. So copy and paste and kind of leave a copy off to the side. And then with this one, I'm going to turn it to outline. So right now it has the blue line underneath, meaning it is editable type. But if I come up here to the word type and I go to create outlines, now, if we zoom in, you'll see that it looks like it was traced with the pen tool. You can see it has all the little vector points around it as if it was drawn out. So now it is no longer editable. There's no more blue line underneath it. It is now blue line all around it. And we can still scale it by holding shift and using our black arrow. We can rotate it, right? But what we can't do is we can't edit it. So I can't go in and it won't tell me what font that is. You can see it doesn't even give me the option for character anymore because it doesn't recognize it as type. It only recognizes it as an object. So when type is in outlines, it becomes an object that can be changed, just like anything you draw with the pen tool. You can change the color, things like that. Oh, that's really bold. That's hurting my eyes. Let's go back to a calming blue color. Okay, so what you can do is once you have your type in outlines, you can use the white plus arrow. Remember, this is going to be grouped because it's all together. So if we want to work inside that group, we can use the white plus arrow. And we can do that to move individual letters. So if you want to kind of create something that doesn't look like you just typed it right out, maybe like a funky kind of logo or something like that, you can literally move these letters as objects, just as you would anything else. You just have to do that with the white plus arrow. So it allows you for that. And then the other thing that you can do once your type is outlined is you can actually use the white arrow to tweak the points. So if you remember back to when we worked with the pen tool, if we click on just one point, we can then drag, move, or extend that point. So now we can really customize our type. And you can see how I can kind of pull on this point and now make it kind of mimic the same angle of that A. I don't know what else would look good here, but you could do that with any of these points. You could extend them, or bring them up this way. So the text becomes an object that can be editable once it is turned into outlines, but there's no going back. I can never go back in with my type tool and edit this or change the font. That's why it's important to always keep a copy off to the side, which I have over here. Another thing that you might want to do is type on a path. And this is another way to work with type. If you want your type to be curved or follow a certain shape, you can use the pen tool. And we're going to put it on a stroke only. And I'm just going to click and hold, click back, click and hold. And I'm going to make a nice gentle curve there. Then I'm going to click on my black arrow to end it because I want to end that path. And I'm left with this curved line. So from here, I'm going to get out my type tool, but I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to get type on a path. So with type on a path, if I click on the far left here where I want my type to start, it's going to activate this path to become the line of type. So once I click on that, you can see how I can now type on the path, and I can make the font larger and change the font. And we'll see how big we can get that. Come on, where's my font size? Here it is. And let's choose a better font than Myriad Pro. Myriad Pro, not fun. Okay, so as I increase the size of this, I just highlight it again. You can see that it kind of expands outward towards the right edge to fill that space. Now, if I go too far, you'll see I get that red box and the text disappears. This red box means that there's more type. It's just we don't have enough space to show it. So we've run out of room. So the remedy for that is to make your type a little bit smaller, just so it doesn't go off the edge of the line there. All right, so that looks good. And now we've got type that is on a curve. So you can really draw any path and put type on it. Another thing you might be interested in doing is type in a circle. So if you want to do that, you're going to draw a circle first. Here's our circle. And then we're going to go to our type on a path tool. And then we're going to click once. You got to click right on the line. If you click in here, it's going to fill this circle with type. We don't want that. We want the type to go around the edge. You got to click right on the path on the line there. And then we can start typing. Okay, so that's type on a circle, although you might not want your type to be upside down here. So what you might want to do, another option here, is to leave this part like that, and then we're going to copy and paste it. So we're going to make a duplicate. I'm just going to move this one off to the side. Now with this one, we want this to be the under side, right? The side that goes underneath this top part. So to do that, we're going to go to type. Type on a path. And then all the way down to type on a path options. It's a little bit buried. It's a little bit hard to find. When you get that type on a path options window up, you're going to click preview so you can see what's going to happen. And you can click flip, which is going to flip it the other way. But notice that this is a much tighter circle than this one, right? And that has to do with where the type is aligned to the path. So if we do center, it will bring it down a little bit more. If we do descender, it will bring it in closer. And if we do ascender, it will push it out farther. I think ascender is the way to go with this one, but let's check it out. There we go. So now our type is on the top and on the bottom, and it's facing the right way. So that looks pretty good. And again, you can change the font, you can change the size. If you don't like that being so close to each other, you can make this text a little bit smaller. But that is type on a path. And type on a shape. Next up, when you're handling the back of your CD album, right, and you're working with track listings, some things to keep in mind. Let me see if I have one saved here. I don't think I do. You want to clean this list up so it's not, it doesn't have all this stuff on it. We always want to simplify as much as possible. Hold on one second. I'm going to clean it up and I'm going to pause this and come right back. Okay, So I got that list cleaned up pretty quick, and just something to address at the top here. So once you have your list selected, you can see you've got left align at the top here. We've got center. It's going to turn our text to centered. And we've got right aligned. We can bump it up to the right. So that's your choice on alignment. We also have, if we go under tracking, or sorry, character, and then we go under tracking, which is this arrow between the V and the A, we can increase the tracking, and that's going to increase the space between the letters. The one above that is leading. That's going to increase or decrease your line spacing. So you can see I'm increasing the space between the lines, or I'm decreasing it, right? You don't want to get too close where now you can't read it. You want to keep at least enough where you can make sense of it. And then this is going to either bring your text closer together or further apart. So tracking is space between each letter equally, and then leading is your line spacing, right? And the way you handle this track listing is up to you. If you want to do it as a list, if you want to do it as 2 columns, if you want to do it as centered, totally up to you. And another option that's always possible is you could do like a paragraph style where you bring this list up and kind of hit return. I'm adding a little slash in there. You could add a bullet or a little circle or square. I'll show you how to do that with this next column, next row here. These songs are pretty short, so I probably fit 4 in there. And then on this line, we'll show you quickly what that looks like. Now I'm just going to cut these off. You're going to keep your whole track listing, but you can see what happened here. I tried to go in here to highlight and I missed the selection, and I created that little red and blue dot, if you can see there. That means I tried to click the type tool, but I didn't have enough space to actually type anything. So if you get any of those little mistakes, they happen all the time, just click your black arrow and click on them and hit backspace on your keyboard. So that happens when you're trying to highlight the type. And you can see my cursor's in there, so I could highlight that. But if I miss it and I hit somewhere else that's outside of it, it's going to leave me with those little red and blue text boxes. So you want to keep those cleared up. They can get kind of annoying as you're working. So if I use the ellipse tool, I can come in here and do maybe a little ellipse. If I hold shift, I can make a perfect little circle. And then with my plus arrow, I like my plus arrow because it's a little bit more precise. I can copy and paste that little dot. And that could be the separator between songs. Another little trick, if you want those dots to all be equally centered there, you can come up here and hit align, and then you can align them through the center like this. So that kind of scooch them all into the same line. Or you can do it with a box if you want a little square in there. I'm going to hold shift, get a little square, and then copy and paste. So if you want to do your track listing as more of like a paragraph form, you can totally do that. But we'll align them again. So I'm going to hold shift and select all 3. Then I'm going to come up here to align, and I'm going to click in here. And then, oh, that one's pretty lined up as it is. So I wouldn't mix them and do slashes, dots, and squares. I would do one or the other throughout the whole thing. But just showing you a couple different options there when you're working with type on the back. Last thing about type, someone asked about the neon effect that I have going on here. So I'll show you that pretty quickly. It does work best when we're in RGB mode, and right now I'm in CMYK, so the effect isn't going to look as good. You're going to try it with this font. So again, you're going to make a copy and keep a copy off to the side that's live and active. And I'm going to turn this to be a bright pink. It seems to work best with bright pink. And before we do anything, we have to turn it to outlines. So this effect is not going to work if we keep it as active type. So I'm going to come up here and go to type, create outlines, and I have my copy up here in case I need it. Next, let me zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to need a bunch of copies of this. So I'm going to copy and paste it and leave a couple copies out here. And on this bottom copy, I'm going to go to Effect, and then Blur, and then Gaussian Blur. And I'm going to get this little window here. I'm going to click preview so I see what it's doing. And I want to push that blur up by a lot. I want a lot of blur there. Maybe like that. On my next one, I'm going to make sure that one's on top. If it's not, I would go Object Arrange, Bring to Front. And on this one, I'm going to do that same blur effect. So it's Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Preview. And I don't want as much blur, so I'm going to dial it down. I want some blur, but not a lot, not too much. Maybe like there. Again, there's no number, scientific reason. Just trying to make it look as good as you can. This last one, I'm going to go Object Arrange, Bring to Front. I'll make sure that one's on the very top. And with this top one, I'm going to lighten the color a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit lighter with it. And I'm going to go back into Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur, Preview. I want to see what it does. And I want to lower the blur more on this one. And again, your call as you play with that. So you can see how I went from this one, which only has a very slight blur, this one, which has much more blur, and this one, which is very blurry. And then I'm just stacking one on top of the other to get that effect. And hopefully it gives you that neon kind of look. And again, it just depends on how much blur you put on there. That one looks pretty good. Again, RGB is going to give you a much better effect than CMYK. Something to consider. So that's some things with working with type, all right? Leading, tracking, matching decorative fonts with supporting fonts, turning fonts to outlines and tweaking them with the white arrow, doing type on a path or type on a curve, and a little bit of neon effect there. So I hope this has served you well, learning a little bit more about type in case you missed it.